Welcome back to On to the Next Thing. I'm Michael, your host, and this is episode 32. Today's date is January 30th, 2026, and that means that I am definitely behind schedule. There's a couple reasons for this, but actually there's one big one. I'm way busier now because I'm going back to graduate school. Hopefully this doesn't interrupt the podcast schedule too much, and maybe once I kind of make a little more money off this degree, I can get some updated equipment and maybe stuff that's not so free and open source where I need to do extra work, or at least it'll help me make a better quality product in the future. Or maybe I can use that extra money to hire some little goblin to do my editing for me. That would be pretty cool. But this raises the question, how did I get here? Why am I going to grad school now? Kind of what was my path for going to grad school? Am I a fresh-faced graduate of a university? Am I just some 22-year-old guy? Have I actually aged myself down? Or aged myself up? All right, that didn't really make any sense. But later this episode, I'm going to talk about kind of reasons to go to graduate school, why you should or why you shouldn't, and what situations are kind of the better situations for going to grad school right out of undergrad versus later after some work experience. But before we do that, we got to get right into motherfucking bird news. Caw. Come on, phone. Let's do this. All right, starting off pretty scientific, so let's see if my reading comprehension skills are up to snuff today. This is from phys.org, my favorite pop science website. Scientists just mapped the family tree of all 11,000 bird species, and you can explore it. It's by Cornell University, edited by Gabby Clark, and reviewed by Andrew Zanine. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology today announced the release of a new online tool for studying biodiversity and the evolutionary relationships among birds. The Illustrated Birds of the World Phylogeny Explorer. Available on Birds of the World, the Phylogeny Explorer offers a captivating experience for exploring avian evolution, discovering closely related species, and grasping the timescales at which they evolved. Understanding avian ancestry, what scientists called phylogeny. Well, phylogeny is all animal and life form ancestry. It's not just for birds. A link to the humanitarian aid for Gaza, which I hope is different than the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. But back to the birds. Available in Birds of the World, blah, blah, blah. Captivating experience. Okay, never mind. Phylogeny. It's a fundamental aspect that underpins most ornithology research. But with more than 11,000 bird species in the world, organizing the available phylogenetic trees into a single synthetic depiction and keeping it current has long challenged ornithologists. The Birds of the World Phylogeny Explorer uniquely addresses these challenges by staying current with the latest research. This tool combines centuries of bird research with computational tools to create an engaging and interactive resource that tells the story of how birds evolved, says Dr. Elliot Miller, researcher with the American Bird Conservancy and one of the project leads. New evolutionary relationships are constantly revealed, Miller explains. We will release an updated phylogeny tool annually, thus providing a comprehensive phylogenetic data set that syncs with current taxonomy. This tool greatly benefits science, says Dr. Pam Rasmussen. It's a fun name. Dr. Pam Rasmussen. Rasmussen? Senior Research Associate and avian systematist at the Cornell Lab. Quote, the entire tree of life for birds, built on the latest phylogenetic research, is now an interactive and downloadable data set from Birds of the World that will simulate and stimulate endless questions and deeper research. The tree is a vital entry point for answering so many questions, such as how evolutionary history may have influenced beak shape, wing length, foraging habits, habitat preferences, or other traits in birds. Birders will be excited by the Explorer's built-in personalization, says Marshall Iliff, eBird project lead, who also serves on the Cornell Lab's taxonomy team, Dr. Rasmussen. I certainly will be, Dr. Rasmussen and Marshall. By logging into the platform, birders can visualize the diversity of their eBird life list. Users can also zoom into different parts of the tree to examine their birding history in the context of bird orders, families, and genera. Genera? It's the plural of genus. Revealing evolutionary patterns in the species they've observed and highlighting gaps they might want to fill. Suddenly, a birder's life list becomes a personal journey through evolutionary history, showing not just what they've seen, but how those species fit into the grander story of avian evolution. Users of this tool are bound to encounter a few surprises. For example, how can downy woodpeckers in North America look so much like hairy woodpeckers and yet not be closely related? Why do falcons, despite being fierce hunters like hawks and eagles, actually belong on different branches of the family tree? Taxonomic puzzles like this will give anyone seriously interested in birds a lifetime of wonder. Damn, nice. This project brings to life the research concepts developed by the McTavish and team in their 2025 PNAS. No, okay, it's PNAS. They're like, it's like Polytechnic, it's like physics, nature, and science, or something like that. But it's PNAS publication. All right, that's the end of the article. Check out this bird thing, this bird taxonomy map. I'll definitely link that in the description of this episode, just because I think it's pretty cool, and you dorks need to learn something every once in a while. All right, next article. Chips among thousands of products recalled over possible rodent and bird contamination. Perfect. I knew I found something vaguely bird related that was nice and gross for the flu season. This is in Indianapolis. Thousands of products were recalled over a possible rodent and bird contamination. Fuzz, shut the fuck up. Oh my god. Oh, he arrives. The world's smelliest, warmest, itchiest cat. Coming here to sit on me while I try and record. Oh, or just walk on me and then jump off. Great. Okay. What a worthless animal. Thousands of products were recalled over possible rodent and bird contamination. According to the U.S. Jesus. Shut up. Shut up. Yeah. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, Gold Star Distribution Incorporated has issued a recall for all FDA-regulated products due to potential contamination from rodents and birds. The agency found the company's facility operating under unsanitary conditions, including the presence of rodent excreta, urine, and bird droppings. That's fucking nasty. These conditions pose a significant risk of contamination with harmful microorganisms. God damn, if only all the ads wouldn't keep jumping the fucking page around while I'm trying to read. That would be cool, right? Significant, get this fucking Puffs commercial out of here. Skip. Fuck you, man. These conditions pose a significant risk of contamination with harmful microorganisms, including salmonella, which can cause serious illness. The recall affects a wide range of products, including drugs, medical devices, cosmetics, dietary supplements, and human and pet food products. Pet food products? Maybe we should stop buying those. Then you won't be so loud. You wouldn't have all this energy for crying in the background. I'm going to sound insane because I don't even think that this guy's meows even pick up on the microphone. So it's like I'm yelling at a ghost here. And he's clawing the back of my chair. Stop it. Either sit and chill or go walk around and scream somewhere else. All right? God damn. Consumers and retailers are advised to destroy the products as soon as possible and provide proof of destruction to Gold Star at their Minneapolis address. Okay, so I think Gold Star, I'm pretty sure Gold Star is like, they're a brand of, they make like snacks and shit too. And they're at like gas stations all over my region. So I used to love eating their chocolate pretzels, and so now I guess I got to stop doing that. They're also at like Walgreens and shit. Like they're like a brand that's in Walgreens a lot. So watch out for those like assorted nuts and chocolate pretzels and other tasty snacks, because they got bird shit and rat droppings in them. Fucking hell, Gold Star, clean up your fucking warehouse. Refunds will be provided upon request, but not unless you request a refund. Who isn't going to request a refund? No, it's okay. I don't. You know what? The company needs the money to pay for the cleanup of their shitty warehouse. What the fuck? No illnesses have been reported so far. For a complete list of affected products, visit the FDA website at fda.gov. Cool, and then a bunch of weird clickbait articles. One thing that I like, well, I don't like it, but one thing that's kind of weirdly pleasant is seeing these like kind of classic looking clickbait articles down here. Some of them have AI, but other ones are just like shitty photoshopped like stock photos and stuff like that. Like it's not even like an AI photo. It's just a photo of like, oh, you're all just warned this common food is like dementia in a bottle, and it's like fucking honey on cashews. But it's just like a stock image of honey on cashews. It's not AI. This one, the sugar Alzheimer's connection, the sweetener that rots your memory cells. So this might be the same thing, except it's probably not honey. It's probably like fucking corn syrup or something that they like pass off as honey, and like those honey roasted peanuts that you could get from Gold Star. There's all another reason to stay away from that fucking gas station brand. And then like, yeah, other stuff for charities that I've donated to in the past. Not to brag, but I donate to charities sometime, and now my phone knows that, so it's gonna spit images of dying children at me until I give them another whopping $50. Okay, I think I have one more article left over. And Amazon, what is this? Oh, perfect. The bird war on Amazon and on cargo planes continue. Fuzz. I hate to say this, but get on my lap and chill out. Stop crawling over. Oh my god. He's just using me as a launch pad. This is bullshit. I'm going to kick him out of the room. You little bastard. Get the fuck out of here. Okay, bird war on Amazon. This is from WLWT5 from Cincinnati, Ohio. Amazon cargo plane makes emergency landing at CVG airport after bird strike. The story was actually in Hebron, Kentucky, and the writer is Emily Sanderson, digital media manager, which doesn't sound like a journalist to me, but what do I know? Emergency crews responded to the tarmac at Cincinnati/Northern Kentucky International Airport after an Amazon cargo plane was forced to make an emergency landing. Photos provided to WLWT shows the plane on the tarmac with emergency vehicles nearby. Another image shows what appears to be smoke coming off the left side engine of the plane. WLWT crews on scene also spotted several emergency vehicles near the cargo plane. Air traffic control audio communication points to what may have happened in the air that prompted the emergency landing. Quote, left engine, we took a bird intake. We just want to come back and land, the pilot could be heard saying. The pilot goes on to say, we have smoke in the cockpit. More communications detail what happened next. Quote, can they get a ladder up to our either door? Well, I hope the birds can't use ladders. But quote, the fire was on the left side. They had an engine failure and possible fire, so the right side would be better. Earlier today, one of our air carrier partners experienced a bird strike shortly after takeoff from the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky Airport. Thankfully, no one was hurt and the crew is safe. The aircraft returned to the airport as a precaution, and impact to our customers is expected to be minimal, Amazon spokesperson Terrence Clark said. And that's the end of the article. But we'll have to see as birds come out of hibernation and come back north after a long winter vacation and long winter torpors is what some of them do when it gets really cold. They shut their little bodies down and just chill in like a tree or whatever. We'll have to see if this escalates further into a full-on bird Amazon war, because I believe we had a different bird collision that I think was with like a FedEx plane. So it may just be birds don't like national or like interstate commerce. So we'll keep monitoring this situation as it proceeds. Anyway, all right, let me go back to my notes here because I had to write and scrawl. Yeah, same thing. I had to scrape down some notes. What the fuck? Am I going to have to redo this whole fucking segment? All right, so I wrote down some of my notes here. So I finally have some movies again. I've been watching movies. I've been watching movies possibly at the expense of reading books, although that's more just my own fault of just looking at fucking Instagram reels and TikToks and shit instead of like reading the book that I've meant to read, which is The Dandelion Dynasty, Part 1, The Grace of Kings. I'm about 160 or so pages. I think I'm almost 200 pages into the book, but it's a big book. Normally I would burn through it a lot faster, but I don't know if it's like I don't know if it's that I'm not as much into fantasy recently, which is true. Like a lot of the the problem is I have a lot of fantasy series on my reading list, but I'm not that into high fantasy anymore. Um, I like I like some like grittier dark fantasy stuff. Magical realism, obviously, based on my reading of Things We Lost in the Fire. Magical realism in like Latin America and places like that has become a lot more interesting to me. Kind of like the idea of like magical elements in the real world, so to speak. That sort of thing is cooler to me than like high fantasy for the most part. But it is still a good book, The Dandelion Dynasty. I know I was gonna say I was gonna talk about movies, but it's cool. It's not like super deep. It definitely has like its literary moments where it's describing something, but the characters are kind of like, it sort of reminds me of the writing style in Isaac Asimov's Foundation, where the characters, like most of the main characters, they're a little cartoony, but like they're all generally like quite competent, and they all have like their plans and schemes that are very very open to the reader. Like there's not a lot hidden about the characters. It's all it's like an open book. Wow. But no, I mean it doesn't seem like there's a lot of twists with the characters that have been established so far. It seems like we kind of like more information has been revealed over time for like the motivations for some of the antagonists and things like that. And we'll probably have more information revealed about some of the other characters, but it seems like kind of we know their motivations, we know kind of how their way of thinking works, and like their kind of life philosophies, which is kind of cool. And now we're just kind of, the authors set that up pretty explicitly, literally just like kind of just saying what the characters are thinking early on, and now we're just kind of watching things play out. And I think that'll probably pull me into the book enough where I just burn right through it over the course of the next week. So hopefully I'll have like a more full review of the Grace of Kings by next episode, because I think it's just going to end up being like, all right, we got these characters, we have all these like, tacticians and things like that. Let's fight it out. It's like fucking Beyblades. Just let it rip and let's see where this shit ends up, I don't know. Hopefully anyone who's listening to this isn't too young, or I guess it would be too young to remember Beyblades. I don't know if they're still making Beyblades anymore, but if you're on the younger side or just wasn't watching like cartoons with commercials back in the day, Beyblades, they're like little like it's almost like a little like yo-yo like slingshot thing, where it's like it uses like little kinetic gears and a launcher, and you pull a ripcord and it launches a little metal spinning thing, and you put it into like this like special arena bowl, and it's like these little tops, right? You use the ripcord to launch these little tops around, and they smash into each other. And the advertisements would make it look so fucking cool. Make it look like, oh, this is the fucking Dragon Beyblade. Watch out, fire! And it's like, this Beyblade does not shoot fucking fire. Stupid ass, little dumbass kid, fucking dumbass bitch. Fucking buy the piece of metal and throw it in the bowl. But they're kind of fun like the first couple times that you play. I guess like depending on how much money you're willing to spend on it, you could get like little ramps and stuff, like Hot Wheels ramps, and the Beyblades sometimes they'd like, if you launched them hard enough, they would go in the bowl, and then they'd launch up the ramp and go in the air and fucking hit each other in the air and shit. And it was basically just kind of like a game of chance, basically just a game of like physics chance, because it's like whichever top gets like knocked over or like stops spinning first is the loser. And I just decided to explain Beyblades to you guys, but yeah, that's kind of what I think the plot structure of, or at least that's kind of how I'm thinking of it. There's a certain types of books that do this where they're like, yeah, we're not quite as focused on like on the characters and like, unpacking the layers of these characters over time. It's more like, all right, we have like these are kind of who the characters are, and then events are going to happen, and then how is that going to change them after? or like, you know, or just like, hey, how are these like clashing personalities and clashing like, you know, minds and of like great people, you know, like, you know, basically just like, you know, who are people who, these are a bunch of people who are driving history in this world, and let's just see what they fucking do. And that definitely appeals to like my especially to like my younger self's reading style, where it's just like, all right, fuck all this like unpacking trauma bullshit. We know what these guys are about. Let's watch them fucking fight, and let's watch them fucking try and kill each other and take over the empire. It's pretty cool. So hopefully that'll cause me to lock in a little more and finish this goddamn book so I can do a real review. But movies, on the other hand, I have been watching a good number of movies and TV shows. I guess just running through the TV shows, still been watching What We Do in the Shadows. Still funny, still kind of like irreverent, gory vampire humor. Not for everybody, but definitely for me. And if you like goofy paranormal shit, that's a great place to start. Also been watching bits and pieces of like what the fuck is it, Bridgerton. And Bridgerton is like, if you haven't already seen Bridgerton, you've probably heard of it, and you probably don't really care that much about Bridgerton. But it's kind of a fun show if you just want to turn your brain off and watch some upper class British people just have fun and like try to get married and like backstab each other a little bit. And it's like mostly lighthearted. It's not a very like heavy show for the most part, from what I've seen. Parts of it probably get a little bit heavy, but most of it's kind of like supposed to be like kind of light comedy drama type of thing. What is it again? Downton Abbey, but without the fucking but without the specter of like World War and like doom hanging over everything, you know? It's a more irreverent Downton Abbey with a Victorian England that has racial equality. So there isn't even like that much racial drama. There's probably a little bit, but I haven't watched that much of the show. Anyway, that was sort of fun. But yeah, the 3 films I've watched in the past week or so were Lake Caddo. Well, actually, okay, I'll say it in chronological order. I saw Heat, I saw Lake Caddo, and I watched I Saw the TV Glow. Heat, of course, is the 1995 classic crime drama film starring Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in opposing roles. This is sort of a kind of a similar to the Beyblade blah 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 fuck Beyblade concept, where you have two very strong unsubtle characters in Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, and you pit them against each other, and it's just kind of, you just gotta see who comes up the winner, and it's good. It's basically a sorry, I'm like searching it up so I can look at fucking details about the movie. I thought it was Scorsese, but it's not. No, it's Michael Mann. Michael Mann, another famous director. He wrote and directed it. Yeah. Oh, and Jon Voight's in it too, and Val Kilmer. So basically, it's like Robert De Niro is like a really skilled white bank robber who poses like a businessman, but he's like, his whole thing has been robbing banks as basically his whole adult life. And his crew is Val Kilmer and like a couple other guys, and then there's like one loose cannon guy that they try and cut out of the group, but he like escapes and then becomes like kind of like this specter behind like a bunch of like killings and stuff that they have to confront in the end, while also evading the Heat, which is the cops. And the Heat aspect of Heat, aka the police, is led by Al Pacino, who's like this. He's like this jaded and kind of like volatile detective guy. Basically, you think of Al Pacino. Do you think of an Al Pacino role? Imagine Al Pacino as a cop, and that's exactly what it is. it's a he plays a rather eccentric style of detective, where he's just like he's has all these outbursts, and I think probably like some ad-lib shit too. Like there's no way that Michael Mann wrote well, maybe he wrote it in the script, but the way that Al Pacino fucking roars out, "She's got a great ass," is like, there's no way that they wrote they wrote him. There's no fucking way that they wrote it so Al Pacino like fucking puts his hands on his face and goes, "She's got a great ass," to like this, I don't know, just some dweeb is interrogating. I don't even remember. This is so stupid. I'm so dumb because I was trying to watch this movie. I was gonna be like, yeah, this is like supposed to be a really good movie. I'm gonna like watch it close. I'm gonna have good notes for the podcast. Even though it's probably been reviewed a million times because it's like fucking a 30-year-old movie at this point. But yeah, it's like the problem is it's almost 3 fucking hours long. That's why I keep mixing it up as like a Scorsese movie. It's not a Scorsese movie. It just has the length of a Scorsese movie. And I literally started because I was like hungover and sick while trying to watch it, and I didn't want to watch it again afterwards because it's kind of like, it's good, but it's not like, oh, I want to watch this again and again. You know, it's not one where I'm like, oh wow, it was so fast paced and fucking good, I want to watch it immediately after. Like it's a well constructed film, and it's got a lot of cool scenes. Apparently, it has one of the more realistic gunfights in cinema, which is pretty cool. A lot of good police chases and things like that. But yeah, it is definitely very slow, and I don't remember that much of the plot. So I don't even remember why. Oh, it's because like the guy's interrogating is like the dude who is like the one of the bank robbers' wives is having an affair with this dude. And apparently Al Pacino knows that she has a great ass, and so he's telling this guy, listen, she's got a great ass, but your head is all the way up it because you're going to go to jail if you try and protect her. So don't, I think that was like the idea behind it. Like the idea behind that line where it's like, hey, you know, she's hot. I'm glad you're having an affair with her, but but like you're going to go to jail, and you're going to, like, I don't know. I think probably is doing the implication where it's like you're going to be like the lady. You're gonna be the lady in the county jail or something like that. Probably one of those classic 1990s rape threats by the police. You know, it happens. But yeah, I guess that was the reason why that was happening. But yeah, the whole film, it's kind of follows this whole cat and mouse thing between Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, and then between Robert De Niro and this piece of shit guy who like was part of the crew, and then like caused them to basically this other guy was the cause of them getting the heat on them because he killed a bunch of armored truck guards in cold blood, and so that's why they're on the run in the first place. So it's also a cat and mouse game where Robert De Niro is trying to find this like fucking dickhead played by, who is it? Nah, not this guy. Yeah, it's Tom Sizemore? Maybe. I don't know. Probably not Tom Sizemore. Ted Levine? I think it might have been Ted Levine. Yeah. Something like that. Wayne Grow. Who the fuck is Wayne Grow? Right. The piece of shit character's name was Wayne Grow. Wayne Grow. Hey. How about you just show me who Wayne Grow is? John Voight is like their connection guy / boss who kind of sets them up with like robbery jobs, I guess. I don't know. Once again, I'm probably a pretty bad person. Kevin Gage. Wow. Yeah, I guess he really didn't. He wasn't in a lot of other shit. Kevin Gage. I guess he's most well known to is playing this fucking psycho in Heat. And then Oh, okay. And then he went to jail for growing marijuana. Um, and I guess he just didn't. Oh, damn. Oh, that's sad. This guy's actually kind of had a sad life. Never mind. I won't get into that right now. Anyway, the point is it's like this kind of dueling cat and mouse thing. And it's a pretty good movie, but I slept through a lot of it and don't remember much of it. Anyway, the next movie that I watched was Lake Caddo, which is a movie that I kind of just sort of based on the title and based on like the snippet of plot that I saw on the streaming service that was on. I think it's on like Hulu or something, or maybe HBO Max. I don't remember. But it was like it seemed like kind of a horror mystery type of movie, but it actually is a science fiction. And I looked it up a little bit just to see kind of what genre and stuff it was. And it was like, oh, science fiction. That's interesting because it has like kind of a spooky setup, and it's like you don't really know. Like it seems like if you're just watching it cold in the beginning, it seems like it's going to be like some sort of like ghost or creature feature horror movie set in this big like swamp. It's like a swampy area down in Georgia. Called Lake Caddo because there is a real Lake Caddo that the movie Lake was based on. And yeah, it's a very so the Lake Caddo, it's kind of difficult to describe plot wise because there's a lot of different like weird lines going on, and it's not really it is very intentionally not linear as far as its chronology. So it's difficult to describe without spoiling everything. So probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a separate little bonus episode, and I'm going to draw a spreadsheet, or not a spreadsheet. I'm going to draw like a little flow chart for the viewers, and I'm going to do my best to explain Lake Caddo and kind of the relations between all the characters. And I think it's better if I do that separately because it's going to take like at least a half hour, and I don't want to try and do that from memory and spoil the movie in the middle of this episode if you don't want it spoiled. So we'll do the big spoiler explanation of that movie in another episode because I think people really should see it because it actually had a lot of emotional impact, and it was pretty clever in its writing and execution. It didn't have a lot of like super famous actors in it. It was like relatively low budget and independent, and some of the effects kind of belie that low budget, or don't belie it. Expose that low budget a little bit. But I don't know. I guess it's like kind of an independent production company, but then it's distributed through New Line. That I guess tends to do more like kind of independent movies, I suppose. But yeah, it was directed by Celine Held and Logan George, and then it was produced by M. Night Shyamalan, which is interesting. Definitely kind of I guess a little bit of a spoiler. It is kind of right up M. Night Shyamalan's alley, but I think it handles kind of the confusion of the plot twists and things like that better than most recent M. Night Shyamalan movies that I've seen. But yeah, it stars like people like Dylan O'Brien, Eliza Scanlon, who I think are like relatively well-known actors. But yeah, Dylan O'Brien he was in the Maze Runner trilogy. And then he was in, I recognize him. He was in Deepwater Horizon. He was in a couple other things. He voiced Bumblebee in Bumblebee, which is kind of funny. Even in his Wikipedia, they call Caddo Lake a horror film, but I don't think it's really a horror film. I think it really is more of a science fiction. And then Eliza Scanlon, I thought maybe I had seen her in other things, but I guess not. Because she was in Greta Gerwig's Little Woman. And then, not too much. A lot of HBO series and things like that. So not super well-known actors, but they all do their jobs quite well, and it's ends up being a very satisfying story if you have the attention span to parse it out. Which I will do for you in another episode relatively soon. Yeah, and then the final movie that I watched recently was another 2024 kind of weirdo science fiction horror type movie, and that was I Saw the TV Glow. Now, one thing I didn't realize about this movie was that it's sort of part of like kind of a like spiritually it's part of a trilogy, even though like it's kind of like like Shaun of the Dead, like those movies, where it's like it's spiritually a trilogy with like Hot Fuzz and the End of the World or whatever the third one was that wasn't that interesting. But I think it is called like the Ice Cream Trilogy, just or something like that, because it has Simon Pegg and like the other greasy British guy who's also pretty funny. And it always, all three of them involve those guys. It's like the same director, and it has like a couple running themes going through, and they like always stop and like eat an ice cream cone or something like that. Or there's always like a pineapple in one scene or something. That was a different movie series. But yeah, it's a similar thing with I Saw the TV Glow. It's kind of like the Shaun of the Dead of this little trilogy, I guess called this sort of like referred to as the Screen Trilogy, and it's directed by Jane Schoenbrunn, who's she is like the the mastermind behind this. And then also We're All Going to the World's Fair, which is a film that I've been meaning to watch for a little bit, but I guess I just added it to the watch list after I saw the TV Glow. And so that means God forbid I'm watching this this sort of like loose trilogy out of order, even though I don't think it's really got like a lot of plot connections between any of them. But yeah, either way, this has made me definitely want to see We're All Going to the World's Fair more, because this is very it's not like frightening into the traditional sense where it's like it's freaking me out with with like frightening imagery or like loud fucking noises or like pure terror of the characters just having like, oh, getting fucking chased by a monster or possessed, or like, oh, they're all gonna get killed, or certainly not a gore fest for the most part. There is a little bit of kind of weird body horror type of stuff to it. But really kind of what really gets to you in this movie, if you pay attention to it and you can get past kind of the intentional, almost kind of like childish acting, I guess I would say. It's childish acting, not in the sense where it's like all the characters are acting like children all the time, although like kind of, holding on to stuff from your childhood and like, finding your center in like, past childhood media and things like that are definitely a theme. But it's literally like it's kind of like acted, and like some of the script reminds you a lot of like literally like a children's or young adult television show with like kind of that sort of cadence and quality of writing, where it's like it's kind of cheesy, but it's like it sounds like it's supposed to just kind of move the plot along or just like narrate and things like that. But it kind of becomes like more intentional and unsettling as the movie goes on. And yeah, what's really more frightening about this movie is kind of like the existential fear that you feel from it, and kind of like it opens up kind of a lot of sort of philosophical and existential ideas, where it's like, hey, what if the life that you're living is a lie? And a lot of it is an allegory, apparently. It's definitely pretty obvious allegory if you know what you're looking for, but or if you just have eyes and are like aware of the world. But it's definitely an allegory for transitioning genders, which is something that Jane Schoenbrunn went through kind of shortly before. It was kind of shortly after We're All Going to the World's Fair was released. She had kind of like an epiphany that, like, the body she was born in wasn't who she was. And so she transitioned shortly after that and had pretty much completed her transition for the most part by the time that she was like making and like finishing up this film. And so a lot of elements from that, certainly, especially like kind of the ideas of like dysphoria and kind of like not really understanding who you are, but just knowing that something isn't quite right, and that like the kind of like the normalcy, like like the normal like boring bullshit of like suburban American society just like isn't right, and is like slowly suffocating you because it's just not who you are. And it's definitely like, even as me just being like just fucking straight dumb guy watching the movie, I was like, oh shit, like this hits kind of hard, because I definitely have like childhood, like core childhood memories, even with things not that I did directly, but like that I experienced through media and things like that, where, that's like kind of a core thing about who I am. And it's like, am I kind of living up to that ideal, or should I even be living up to that ideal? I don't know. The film makes it kind of, the film definitely makes it seem like, hey, like, trying to just live kind of a really basic life where you just go to your job and you stuff down your feelings about trying to, about like being yourself, and like you just kind of like crush down your childhood dreams and things like that. It I guess it is for some people, but it's not for everybody, is the lesson that the movie is trying to tell the viewer. At least that's my interpretation of it. But yeah, definitely, especially while kind of like ill and on cold medicine, it was definitely a fucking trip. So, yeah, it certainly has its moments that are a little bit like kind of overly art house. Like the whole kind of, there's a middle chunk of the movie that's probably like 10 to 15 minutes that's mostly just like guest indie bands coming in, because they're kind of like the main characters, they're like chatting in this bar, and it's like like kind of a underground music scene type of bar, and there's like these feminist punk bands and like alt rock bands, and it's basically just like they're just doing a set in the middle of it. And so probably for like 10 minutes or so, there isn't even really dialogue. It's just these bands that are like, they're real bands from the real world, and they were invited to like perform during this movie. And it creates kind of like a thematic musical intermission where they're kind of like singing about a lot of the themes of alienation and like, just kind of like weirdness of everyday life, and like singing or screaming about that shit. Cause there is like definitely like a emo, like a more emo-y band that's like has really raw vocals and things like that. So, I mean, that bit was a little much for me. I was like, can we just get back to the movie? I want to know what happens. I'll look up these bands later. I don't want to fucking watch it. But if you're really into like kind of the kind of art house stuff where it's like mixed media and things like that, then you'll probably enjoy that part a lot more than I did, and you'll almost certainly enjoy the film as a whole. But yeah, kind of the main thing that would really kind of irked me in the film, and I know that it's kind of intentional, and not other critics, but like actual critics who aren't me also acknowledge that. But it's like the dialogue and the acting is like kind of intentionally kind of like kind of cringy and like cheesy, I guess, is a way. Like, yeah, definitely cheesy, and like basically like a young adult TV show, except it's like it's people in the real world, or like in what they think is the real world, or something like that. But they're talking about like really serious shit and like talking about doing really serious things, but in kind of like this very weird dreamlike way. And it's a little bit like awkward to watch and listen to at first, but it kind of it makes more sense as the movie goes on, and you're like, oh shit, this is actually kind of like unnerving and strange. So yeah, definitely highly recommend that one. That one in Lake Caddo, 2024. It had like some it there were some solid films in the outside of like the Oscar bait genres. I hate to say Oscar bait genres where it's like, oh, drama or historical pieces, that's Oscar bait. It's all Oscar bait. They're just trying to get awards. It's like, yeah, every film director is trying to get an award if they can. But these ones that were kind of, they slipped under the radar for me a little bit. Although I saw the TV Glow definitely got some pull online, especially in like kind of the weird horror indie movie community. But Lake Caddo was that was one that I had hardly heard about at all. I think I mixed it up with Lake Mungo, which is a horror movie, like kind of more of a ghost story movie that I'm planning on watching soon. But yeah, the Lake Caddo also very solid, very trippy. Certainly more straightforward. Well, not even straightforward in plot, but is less art house than I saw the TV Glow. But yeah, this one definitely makes me want to both watch. We're all going to the World's Fair, and then also whatever third whatever third movie potentially comes into play. And it says it's preceding an upcoming novel titled Public Access Afterworld. So I don't know if the third story in the trilogy is going to be in like a written form, which I think would be kind of interesting. But I mean, I hope it's a film, so I watch it. But I'll read it too, probably if I get to it. I've certainly been fucking slow going in my completion of my reading list. But that's always been the case. Like I always add stuff to my reading list, and then I'll be finding other things to read in the meantime that aren't on the list, and so shit just gets pushed back, or I find like, or I decide that I want to reread an old story, like some Stephen King paperback that I wanted to reread for a while, and I'll do that, or I'll just be on forums online all day, or not even forums online, but just like reading stories online on like story forums and things like that, or Wikipedia articles or research articles and shit like that. And it's just like, I don't need to read a whole book right now. But I promise I'll get back to it, because I know people are clamoring for my book review of The Grace of Kings. But yeah, I mean, that kind of I've been thinking about like maybe. Not maybe, but I'm really hoping that I don't become one of those people who just kind of stop reading at some point. I don't think it's going to happen, but like, I feel it. I feel that pull of like, oh, I'm reading so much for coursework, or for, or for work, or just for fun, just reading like bullshit articles and like little short stories and things like that. And I'm never going to get around to reading stuff on my book list, or like real literature. I need to read Umberto Eco and Thomas Pynchon and fucking Hemingway. I haven't read anything by Hemingway, god damn it. Like all this shit that I plan on reading, but it's slow going, and I'm hoping that my brain isn't getting turned to mush by microplastics and shit like that. And I'm hoping that I've just kind of hit a bit of a lull in my reading, and I'll be back in top form soon enough. But anyway, speaking of doing a lot of reading for courses, let's talk a little bit about situations in which you'd go to grad school before we close out this episode. So, kind of here's a little outline of where I'm coming from on higher education. my education journey basically went like this, in chronological order. Public school, high school, which was also public school. So yeah, public school, public education system, straight to state college. Then I graduated. I worked for, how long have I been working for? Fucking, yeah, almost about 4 years now. Well, okay. So high school, state college, graduated, worked for about 2 years, doing various scientific roles, which I will get into in future episodes when I run out of stuff to talk about. I need to just kick it back to anecdotes for a little bit. And then I decided that I wanted to get a certificate in a certain programming language, and that did that through a university that was offering it via another graduate program. And so I decided that I would just kind of start with one course, which is of course how they get you to pay more money, because it costs more to just like take a course straight up than like to actually be matriculated into a graduate program. So I wouldn't recommend doing that unless you just have money to throw around, or like really, really unsure that you can like actually do school, and then you really just need to try like one course. Other than that, I'd say just do the whole thing. Just go in, apply for real, and then just get fucking matriculated into the program. Because taking the courses like one little bit at a time, even if that's an option, usually costs more in the long run, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to deal with. So I wouldn't recommend doing that, but I did that. So I took like one course, and then I was like, okay, I like this. I'm going to finish up the rest of the certificate. And then I took a couple of other courses, and I got that certificate, which comes out to like a good chunk of a master's degree, but I didn't really want to try and pursue a full master's degree at that point. So I went back to work. Well, no, I was working the whole time. But the certificate didn't really get me any sort of promotion or better job opportunities that I wanted. So I kind of, we'll say I stagnated for a little while. Didn't really get paid much more over the next year or so. Started this podcast again, reigniting my passion for podcasting that had been strangled shortly after graduation. At a time when I thought that I just wasn't funny or creative and couldn't fucking do anything. So glad to get back into this, but I decided that it's like I need to do something in my career, because if I just do podcast, I will starve to death, and my job made me want to I guess currently still the same job, but at the time when I was thinking I got to go back to grad school, it's like I want to stick a power drill through my head, like in The Equalizer. Like, you remember that scene in The Equalizer? Denzel Washington is the Equalizer, and he's like he's like an old guy who can kill people really fast, and it's like he uses a fucking power drill on a guy in a warehouse. That's crazy. That's what I wanted to do myself. While just fucking doing meeting notes and making spreadsheets and not doing as much science shit as I wanted to be doing. So I decided to make a little grad school run, and that's kind of what I'm starting on now. Now there are definitely there are situations you can find yourself in that can lead you to do grad school at different times. I knew people who did grad school immediately after graduating with their bachelor's degree. I know some people who even did just like a +1 program, or like a +1, +2 program, where it's just like, it just kind of rolls, like the classes from the bachelor's degree just kind of roll right into the graduate courses. It's all at the same university. And then you're done with like a bachelor's and a master's degree in like 4 years or like 5 years. And it's really fucking hard. Well, yeah, it would have to be in 5 or 6 years. But either way, really fucking hard, from what I gathered to an extent. You have to be kind of really into what you do in order to pay for another 2 years of college. We have most likely less financial aid because it's graduate courses and it's a graduate degree. So I generally, I think it's like, if you want to do something like that where it's like, oh, it's like a +1 and you're just going to just finish all degrees, you have to be really into what you do. Because there were definitely a couple people I knew that kind of burnt out on their degree and were like, fuck, I don't want to fucking do this shit. I don't want to do this fucking shit right now. And then they came out and there's no jobs, but that's kind of a separate issue attached to political stuff that I won't necessarily get into on this show yet. But yeah, it's definitely, you have to be really into what you do. You also have to be really into what you're doing if you're just going to be going to another graduate program at a different school, even if it's like a year away. That was kind of my problem coming out of my bachelor's degree. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. Like, I was thinking like, well, I could try and go for a graduate degree and then just try and get a more advanced job after that. Or I could dig around in the mud and do fucking field work for a while. And I decided that I like to dig around the mud and do fucking field work for a little bit. And I met some very cool people doing field work. But unfortunately, in order to be able to have financial independence from my parents and move on with a new relationship, I needed to, or rather, continue to the next level with a relationship. I decided that I needed to get a more not even advanced, but a more higher paying kind of corporate style job that gelled with the economy a little better. And so that's kind of what I've been doing for a little bit. And now I'm in this state where it's like, okay, I think I can buckle down. I've gotten my life together, kind of figured out my mental state, figured out who I am. And now I want to finish this goddamn master's degree and then get that ball rolling so I can, really be in a good place when the fucking when the hammer finally drops on the AI bubble or world war or major climate disaster, whatever may. I'm hoping to be above that waterline. Of course, you can never truly know where the waterline's going to be, but I'm hoping to be above it. And if not, then at least I'll have gotten a master's degree. So that's where I'm at. But a lot of people get their master's degree coming right out of college. I think that this is a good idea if A, you're wealthy or being bankrolled by your parents, and your parents are like, we'll pay for it. Just get a master's degree. Just go. You don't need to take out that many loans. Just do it so you can be financially set and we don't have to worry about you anymore. And that's all well and good. It's definitely an expensive option, but some people can generally afford that or split it with their parents or whatever. The other reason to do that is if you're on a pre-med track, you're like, I want to be a doctor. Well, then you're just going to fucking medical school right after. You did your applications during senior year and you did whatever else. You probably got like some lab experience or some hospital experience, or you're going to get some over the summer, and then you're just going to go right into medical school, and that'll be that. Similar thing with law school. Similar thing with some other specialized medical schools, veterinary school too. Things like that. It's like, all right, you know what track you're on. You're just going on that track. You're rolling right into it. You're taking the student loans. Even if you got to take the student loans, you're going to be able to pay it off with your salary later. That's all good. I will say it starts to get into a little bit of a middle ground, especially now if you're coming out of college and you have some sort of degree where it's like, ooh, I have communications or or maybe kind of a softer science degree, things like that, or even a hard science degree, like math or physics or chemistry, something like that. You might be kind of on the fence and thinking ooh, should I go and try and get a higher degree? Should I, try and get a PhD in these sort of things? And that's when things get really variable, because it's like, okay, well, How long do you want to be a student? Do you like being a student? If so, then research is probably for you, and then you can kind of figure out how to make a living later on, or maybe your lab will explode and you won't have to worry about any of that shit anymore. Who knows? If you don't really like being a student that much and you're like, well, maybe I should just get a master's degree just because it's like good for me, that's less of a good reason to get a master's degree immediately. That's a point where it's like, especially if you have support from like your family or whatever, you try and work for a little bit, save up, live at home if you have to, and just kind of make your money and do your thing for a while, and then see what the next step is. Then maybe that next step will be going to graduate school, which is like for me, or maybe you end up just finding a pretty decent spot where you're at, and you can kind of work your way up through an organization or job hop from there and be okay. That's kind of up to you and kind of where you are and what you're doing and what your degree is and like what your level of work experience is. Certainly it's not a good idea to make too big of a jump in your degree. Like, for example, me, I had research experience, but I didn't have very much wet lab experience at all. Like, I was a biology guy, but I only did dissections and like experiments in like lab courses. I never did an internship where I was like doing real, like really real research work with stakes, and as in not like stakes like metal stakes like fucking torturing animals or whatever, like stakes as in we don't want to lose funding and we need to publish this fucking paper. That sort of stakes. I never had anything like that. And so when it came to kind of looking at research labs for graduate school, when I was sort of thinking about it, it kind of was coming down to like, I don't know. I don't really know what it's like to work in a wet lab. I don't know if I like being in a dark room that much of the day. And these professors, they have high standards. They want you to be fucking into it. Otherwise, they're not going to like, they're not going to help you out, So sometimes it kind of just comes down to like, hey, what have I already done? Are there openings for that? Do I want to take those openings? Like you look into different financial aid options. The best options for graduate students are like become a teaching assistant, become a lab instructor, do research and get a stipend for doing research and get some of your tuition paid for, things like that. You do that and shit becomes a lot less frightening in a way. But it can also be kind of like, I know I had issues like trying to like grovel to these professors and just being like, I don't know, do I really want to like know this person as my boss and have them be my fucking lifeline in my career for like the next 3 years? Like I have to be just like fucking on my hands and knees every fucking day doing shit for these professors. And it's no weird shit, okay? I know I set up kind of a weird image. It's getting late in the day and I'm starting to get a little bit loopy, but don't think I'm talking weird shit here, okay? On my hands and knees, or I'm talking like scrubbing lab floors or whatever. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing on my hands and knees in a lab. That doesn't matter. The point is, I had kind of trouble with that because I didn't really know if that was what I wanted to do. There was a time when I was thinking like, maybe I'll just be a trail guide. Maybe I'll just do this technician role and do that and like see if I can work my way up into a more senior role without having to go and get a higher degree, which is very rare, especially now. But I knew of some people when I was an intern who were like, they were like lead scientists, and they were like, I just had a bachelor's degree and I just worked really hard as an intern for a long time and did a lot of shitty grunt work forever. And eventually I just gained so much experience. I was the only person who knew how to do anything and they had to promote me. And like, certainly I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. It could be. That could be you, but I personally would find it pretty unlikely, at least with me, because I'm not that personable, and I have brain issues. No, I don't have brain issues, but well, I do, but not enough where it's like that discontinues me from being able to work my way up in a organization like that. But it just that seems like a lot of work, and it's not necessarily true that you'll get that sort of payoff, especially now in the world of budget cuts in the natural sciences. So it's like, yeah, if you're in that science job, you have to really kind of pick and choose and strategize. But I mean, if you have the money, just go for it. It's always good to have in your back pocket like an extra degree. But if you're just kind of like a working person, you gotta you gotta kind of pick your battles. If you're not sure, don't go spend $20,000, or don't borrow $20,000 or $40,000, or they try and do the loan calculation, and they're like, well, it's probably because you're going to try and be on campus. So how about you borrow $50,000 from us? It'll be nice. We'll play nice with you. We won't even charge that much interest. And it can be pretty financially frightening prospect. Of course, there is a final option where it's just you don't give a fuck about ever paying back that money. And you're just like, fuck it, I'll take a million loans. I don't ever plan on buying anything that of any major value. I'll just rent forever, and that'll be fine. And if you're okay with doing that, then you know what? Go into the world of academia and just figure out what you want to do, man. Live that free spirit lifestyle. But that's some crazy shit, and that's a level of crazy and bold that I could never bring myself to do. I tend to play my finances a little close to the chest for that. I kind of like where my credit score is right now, and I feel like I'm a pretty shit gambler. I have pretty poor luck, and I don't think I would be getting away with that if I tried to do that sort of thing. Just take out loans and not pay them back, and just ignore calls and things like that, or like change addresses without telling anybody. And just seems like a hell of a lot of stress to just like be able to explore my options in academia. Doesn't really seem like it's worth it. But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of covers the basis as far as like whether you should go to grad school or not. If you have any questions, if I just sounded like a fucking crazy person, feel free to reach out in the comments, or at OTNT podcast on Blue Sky or Mastodon or Instagram or YouTube. And that would be YouTube at OTNT podcast, or the podcast official email, OTNT podcast at gmail.com. Make sure to reach out. Gonna have, like I said, I'm gonna have the Lake Caddo explanation out soon. That's gonna be fucking crazy, because I might need to rewatch that movie in order to get the flow chart right. And then I'm gonna see if I can record my screen so I can show you John Madden style, kind of where the different plot lines and where the different characters go and shit like that. What happens and when and where and blah 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 blah. It's gonna be great. And then beyond that, planning on having more guests, doing and saying more crazy shit, but not too crazy, because we're trying to get monetized at some point. We're gonna be making fucking money. We're gonna get fucking craft beer sponsors, or Dr. Squatch or some shit like that. I will 100% cut this out if Dr. Squatch wishes to sponsor me, but I don't know. Maybe I can get sponsored by Martini and Rossi, and then I have to drink fucking dry vermouth in some sort of beverage every single episode. Could you imagine? Dude, my organs would fail. I'm trying to cut back alcohol, and it's like, that would be just a overall fucked up sponsorship. Has there ever been a podcast that has a hard liquor sponsorship? Maybe some of the ones that are like literally like Whiskey Tribe or some shit like that. But even then, I don't think they're gonna be like, oh, this is brought to you by Maker's Mark. We're gonna just fucking drink a glass of whiskey while we talk. Maybe there are some like that, but I know this podcast isn't quite that low yet, and I don't think that those guys that are part of like the giant InBev conglomerate are going to reach out to this podcast for that. But we'll see. We'll see how things go. And in the meantime, I hope you keep on listening and keep on enjoying the stuff that I'm putting out, and make sure to keep up the interaction on social media if possible. I know there's at least one person following and liking my shit on the Blue Sky, and I promise that it's not me. There is me, but there's also a person who's not me who follows and keeps up with the likes and stuff like that. So if you're out there, keep on doing that, and we'll have more good shit for you on the way. All right, this has been On to the Next Thing. I'm Michael, and I'll talk to you later, I guess.